Joining us now with stories trending around the world is OjyOkpe. Good morning, Junix.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. How are you this morning?
Good morning.
Good morning, Ayo. How are you this morning?
Good morning,
I was
Oji.
looking for you, but now I see you bright and beautiful. Good morning, Rufi on fire. How are you this morning? Always on fire. Well, all right. Well, good morning to you, viewers. Let's begin what's trending by focusing on reactions to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's review of the list of beneficiaries under the federal government's prerogative of mercy. The president on Wednesday ordered the removal of persons convicted for kidnapping, drug trafficking, human trafficking, fraud, and unlawful possession of firearms from the list, sparking renewed controversy. Presidential spokesman Bayo Ononuga stated that the president took the decision following consultations with the Council of State and Public Opinion on the matter, further stating that the action became necessary in view of the seriousness and security implications of some of the offenses, the need to be sensitive to the feelings of the victims of the crimes and society in general, the need to boost the morale of law enforcement agencies and adherence to bilateral obligations. Well, Maryam Sanda, who was sentenced to death for killing her husband, Biliaminu Bello, during a domestic altercation in 2017, was among those whose pardon was revoked. Maryam had already spent 6 years and 8 months at Suleja Medium Security Custodial Center awaiting execution before her name was controversially included in the list of 175 persons granted pardon on October 9th, sparking widespread outrage. Her sentence has now been commuted to 12 years in prison. The final presidential pardon list now contains 15 names. Ayo, this revision, many have said it demonstrates the government's responsiveness to, public sentiment, acknowledging that while presidential pardons are constitutional prerogatives, they must balance mercy with justice, victim consideration, and societal security concerns. The decision to exclude serious crimes like kidnapping and trafficking shows recognition that certain offenses carry implications beyond rehabilitation. And I will take some reactions, Ayo, before I come to you. Ahmad wrote on X, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has once again showed that the renewed hope agenda is anchored on integrity, fairness, and the rule of law. By removing Maryam Sanda and others convicted of serious crimes from the presidential pardon list, the president has made it clear that justice cannot be compromised and that mercy must never override morality. This decisive action restores public confidence in governance and sends a strong message. No one, regardless of status or connection, will escape the consequences of their action under this administration. President Tinubu continues to prove that, Nigeria is being rebuilt on truth, justice, and accountability. Well, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar criticized Tinubu's reversal of the presidential pardon list, describing it as an act of shame, not wisdom. Well, in a statement on Wednesday by his aide, Frank Shaibu, Atiku accused the administration of lacking foresight and moral consistency. And I'll read Frank Shaibu's statement in part. He wrote, once again, Nigerians have witnessed a government that doesn't lead, it reacts. President Bola Tinubu has cancelled his own pardon for drug traffickers, kidnappers, and other hardened criminals, but only after Nigerians shouted loud enough to wake him from his moral slumber. Let's be clear. This U-turn is not an act of wisdom. It's an act of shame. If the public had kept quiet, would convicted drug lords and kidnappers be walking free today under the president's blessing? Who thought it was a brilliant idea to reward crime and betray justice? Who signed off on such national embarrassment? These are the questions every Nigerian deserves answers to. Who compiled the list of beneficiaries? What criteria justified freeing kidnappers and drug offenders? Where was the Attorney General when the absurdity was cooked up? And why does this government only discover its conscience after Nigerians express outrage? This pattern has become too familiar. Announce the unthinkable, watch the country erupt, then hurriedly reverse course as if governance is a game of trial and error. And, Frank Shaibu, is quite vocal. And, those questions that he asks is in the mouth of every Nigerian at this moment. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. Okay. These questions were asked on the minds, at least, of many Nigerians when the Attorney General of the Federation had announced that, okay, this wasn't permanent and they were going to review the pardon list. In fact, I've seen some interviews, or an interview yesterday where a lawyer had talked about whether the president even had the right to withdraw his pardon and the legality of it and all that. There are many conversations going on. But, Oji, I think, yes, one part of the divide would say this is a listening administration. The president listened to the public outcry of people, and in that regard, he went back to revisit the decision and then revised his decision. But on the other hand, is that when you have a government or an administration that consistently or has a trend of going back on some of its decisions, it then means there's a lack of trust in the processes or the competency of the people who are advising or who are working for the president. I say this because one of the things that President Tinubu himself has said about his strength is that he knows how to identify talent and is able to put the right people in the right positions. But this hasn't been the case in some decisions that have been made, including this one. Someone asked the question, what was the Attorney General of the Federation? Two things. He was the chair of the committee of this, of the pardon committee, and also he's a member of the Council of State who okayed the pardon. Recall that following the pardon, the Council of State, even though they don't have any executive power, but they have the opportunity to advise the president. And the makeup includes the president himself, who is chairman, past president, former justices of Nigeria, Senate president, Speaker of the House of Representatives, governor of the state, all of them together. None of them had a dissenting voice to say, oh no, there's an error or this shouldn't happen, until Nigerians, rose up and spoke up against this decision. Well, it's good that they have reversed it. The other thing as well that I would learn from this is that don't keep quiet. Mm-hmm. There's something to be said about people speaking out. Even though we often say that, what will happen with all you're saying? But we've seen it actually have an effect on the decisions of this administration. Yes. So Nigerians cannot afford to keep quiet or look away or not be involved in governance and looking at every decision and policy that the administration makes. This is active citizenship. We all must be involved in it. And when we see cases of injustice like this, or areas where the decision doesn't, it doesn't all go well, then we have a right to speak up and actually take part in that. But again, like I said, this administration cannot afford to continue to make decisions like this and turn back. It would breed a lack of trust and a lack of faith in their decision-making process.
All right, Dr. Bate, a few seconds. Now, Maryam Sanda's sentence has been commuted to 12 years. I mean, the question Frank Shaibu asked was, where was the Attorney General when this list was drafted? I believe that it's now been handed over to him for, proper review at this point. But what about the whole controversy surrounding even her family coming out, saying that they were the ones who appealed for her prerogative of mercy?
Well, you see, the Attorney General of the Federation had tried to do damage control. When, after the list was announced and there was the outrage, he said, they will do due diligence, which came after the fact. The point we're making is that there was no due diligence. And this is not the first time this is happening. This is an administration that will give appointments to a dead person. Only after the appointment has been announced, they will suddenly discover that the person had died.
Yes.
And then they will quickly change it, they will apologize. It's just for people to be more diligent, to pay more attention to details. In the case of Maryam Sanda, she has already spent about 6 years. After the public outcry, they are now commuted the sentence, I think 86 persons on that list, to 12 years. So which means that effectively she will need to spend 6 more years. Now, Deji Adeyanju, I cited this example earlier, had gone on X to commend the administration for listening to the public. So, as to the point about listening to the public, there are still some people who are saying that, no, the government has not listened to the people. And Deji Adeyanju wrote that he has withdrawn his praise for the government because they have still committed the same offense. However, what we're saying is that the Attorney General of the Federation, we're now told that the committee, the secretariat of the Committee for the Prerogative of Mercy, will be moved to the Federal Ministry of Justice. But the same Attorney General of the Federation, who is the Chief Law Officer of the Federation, was the chairman of the committee. So his office, the same office that could not vet the list.
These are the questions.
Is the place where the Secretariat will now go to show that government is determined to ensure due diligence.
All right.
And, not this kind of sloppiness or shoddiness that is embarrassing to the government. All the members of the committee should be sacked and new persons should be appointed.
Right.
And every effort should be made after now to make sure that we don't have this kind of embarrassment. Either with announcement of appointments or the announcement of pardon for murderers and the hard drug traffickers, kidnappers, they have been removed. Wasn't it obvious enough that they should not pardon drug traffickers
I've never heard
kidnappers
right.
and people who stole government military hardware? And then there's the unresolved issue of Herbert Macaulay, whose family protested and said their father should not be listed alongside convicted criminals.
Yes.
And in any case, it was under the colonial era before independence that whatever matter he had with the colonial, and he was a nationalist, not a common criminal.
All right.
Maybe government will still look at that and change the list again.
Well, I hope they are listening. They've shown that they are listening, so I hope they will listen at this point. Well, we'll head over to Anambra State now, where Governor Charles Chukwuma Soludo has doubled down on his public offer of cash rewards for his campaign team following backlash from opposition groups and civil society organizations condemning the strategy as vote buying. Speaking during a rally in Awka South local government area on Wednesday, Soludo stated that the funds were meant to support the party's campaign efforts, emphasizing that the donations were legitimate campaign contributions and not an attempt to influence voters. Let's take a look.
By the way, it is important to clarify that when we are given incentives, the incentives happen to be to our party men and women who are working hard, knocking door to door, trying to convince voters to go to the polling unit. It is not a reward to the voters and so on and so forth. Party men and women constitute about 2% of the voters, or less even. So it is more like canvassers who are trying to convince voters to get out and vote. Abroad, all door to door, you hire people who go door to door, knocking on doors, putting in the mails, and so on. Here, we are not paying anybody. We are only saying, if you, the 2%, succeed as canvassers in convincing voters to come and you win, we will then reward you as maybe an incentive for you to work even harder. It's not paying for votes. It's not vote buying. We are not giving anybody sheshe for voting. Okuya?
Okuya means, do you understand? Verify.
No, we don't
but this
understand.
is about the second time he's making this clarification. However, the clarification highlights the ongoing debate about campaign financing and vote buying in Nigerian politics. While candidates often provide financial support for campaign logistics and mobilization, the line between legitimate party funding and vote inducement remains contentious. Although our electoral laws prohibit vote buying while permitting campaign expenditure for party activities and logistics. Now, he is clarifying, I think the first time he made this pledge, he spoke in Igbo. I believe this is the second time he's, actually clarifying it again, that it is not for voters, it is for his campaign team. They are for canvassers. But then they are supposed to go word to word to have people come out to vote.
No. It's vote buying. Sorry. You announced it in public.
Yes, and he's doing it again.
You are announcing it again.
Yeah.
You are not supposed to induce. Your logistic team is supposed to work on your canvassers at the back. You announced it that the person, it was like a lottery. He said the people that win in their ward will get a set amount of money. So it was a cash reward. Governor Soludo, the reason why you are explaining is because you got caught. And INEC should act fast on you. Because with this you have said, we don't trust the integrity of those elections any longer. It's because you got caught. That's why you explain. You go explain, tire. The truth has to be said. You were announcing it as a trophy for those that did well. It's not your logistical planning, Governor Soludo, and we must hold you to account. This is a professor. This is a professor with a checkered history. The same former CBN governor, preaching integrity and all of that. Now they become politicians, their life change.
All right. So
I was involved in
campaign.
Political campaigns at the federal level,
yes,
and also at the state level. So, and I had made the point when this issue first came up that within the party, and so I can relate to Governor Soludo saying, APGA members who constitute 2%, they are the ones he's referring to mobilize them, because you mobilize party members. Some of them, if you give them money before, they will not deliver. But there's a piece by a guy called Christian Aburime. Christian Aburime, I think, is the chief press secretary in Anambra State. He said when Governor Soludo made that announcement, he said, if you win your ward, this is the reward you will get. The ward that comes first will get 5 million. The one that comes second will get 2 million. The one that comes third will get 1 million. And we will redeem it. That's the thrust of Aburime's article. That the governor did not say he's going to give them before the election. And that the whole idea is about, motivating people to come out en masse to go and vote in a country where voter apathy is a major problem. So that's Aburime's explanation.
Yes, all right.
It's not that they are already distributing money. He's saying if you do well, we will compensate you and all that. So that distinction, I don't know how it comes across, but that is what Christian Aburime has put.
So they, at large, people, like the civil society groups have, said that it amounts to inducement because you have said it in a rally and, you're telling your ward to go out to have people come and vote for you in particular, correct? And obviously, when they go out to have them come out to vote, isn't it a promise? Yeah. So you're pledging that. Did you hear Governor Soludo say, I will give our ward this amount, so come out and vote? What are you giving those voters who are coming out to vote at the end of the day? That's the question.
I think these are some of the grey areas that are calling on with the Electoral Act to actually define. Because when we talk about inducement, whether it's pre or post, as long as money is involved as a reward for coming out to vote or for voting in particular, it's inducement. Right. It's using money to entice people. Whether, because like you said, is it come out to vote for the opposition?
It's come out to vote for
APGA.
And there is already a cash prize that
areas
goes
need
with
to be
so
really defined.
Whether it is to the team or to the voters, the voters would know that there is a competition out there, and it shouldn't be allowed in Nigerian politics. That
Section 22
should not
of
be
the
allowed.
Electoral Act says you cannot buy votes, you cannot sell votes.
That's it.
It's the rule of law that we should insist upon.
All right.
And that's why we are calling for Electoral Offences Commission.
Correct. All right. Well, all right. We'll continue to follow up on the story. Well, let's now turn to the dramatic tension that occurred on Tuesday as two former deputy governors of Edo State, Philip Shaibu and Omobayo Godwins, clashed over who should represent the state at the former Deputy Governors Forum during its 4th annual national conference. The situation became tense when Omobayo was introduced as the state's former deputy governor at the event, prompting Shaibu to publicly object. Shaibu insisted that the introduction was improper, stating that Omobayo was never elected but brought in through the back door. Well, in response, Omobayo described the clash as almost a national disgrace, adding that he never made himself deputy governor. Well, let's listen to what they both had to say after the event.
It was never a former deputy governor of Edo State. He was never elected, though he was brought in from the back door, and the court had to rule on it that he never existed. I think for 3 months that he never existed. And there was a declarative judgment by in Court 8, Federal High Court here, Court 8, Justice Omotosho. And the underlying word is that the office of the deputy governor was never vacant. And that means he never existed as deputy governor. I gave condition for withdrawing the case against him. And the condition was, stop parading yourself as former deputy governor.
I never made myself deputy governor. That should be in proper perspective. And if not for what happened, because it almost seemed like a national disgrace, I would have left it at that. Because, like I said, I never made myself deputy governor. Even if it's for 1 second, I can even give you my pay slip. I was there from April to November. And in fact, the new APC government that came in paid me my November salary. It's there. I can print my account statement for you. So I don't know what must have led to all of that. But it's a sad reality that he must have to live with. He's my elder brother. We are from the same constituency. We don't have to disgrace ourselves. He's my senior brother, no doubt about it. And it's somebody I respect, I owe a high esteem. If not for the open national disgrace, I would have. I've always tried to dodge this, but I give him his respect as my elder brother. But come on, this is not right.
We don't have to disgrace myself. A producer was asking, what's the benefit of this deputy governor? But we know that Philip Shaibu was impeached as Edo Deputy Governor in April 2024 and replaced by Omobayo Godwins, but a court later ruled the impeachment unlawful and reinstated him. However, Shaibu was not physically reinstated, and Omobayo completed the tenure with former Governor Obaseki. This public confrontation exposes the unresolved legal and political complications surrounding Edo's deputy governorship succession, with both men claiming legitimacy based on competing court rulings and political realities. Rufy on fire.
So I think, in all fairness, Shaibu got a court injunction nullifying what happened. So what happened was, you remember when Obaseki and Dr. Abati, life no good though. Because now you're saying, where's Obaseki? Like, where is he? Where's Governor Obaseki?
I'm sure he's in Edo State.
No, in Nigeria. It's not in Nigeria.
I don't know.
I don't know where. He's resting. Where?
He's on a break.
Okay, what should come back?
No, I mean, I've just missed him. Okay. He's my very good friend. I've just missed him. He should come back to Nigeria. We need to. So that when that squabble was happening, yes, and he removed him as deputy governor and he put in Omobayo. But truly, Shaibu did go to court and he got a court ruling. And the court ruling was that that process never existed. So in the face of the law, Omobayo doesn't exist as deputy governor. But the curious part is that Okpebolo's government is still paying Omobayo his dues and everything. You see, these are part of the inefficiencies of this Okpebolo government. Is it that they didn't even see, as we speak, the court ruling? Is it that they didn't even follow the story? You know, even if Omobayo's claim is true, it's even more painful that the same Shaibu that campaigned and stood with Okpebolo, you're not still paying the same people that worked against Shaibu. No, this is Madu. Man kill man. No. Okpebolo Shaibu is supposed to be your
had a few questions.
Ally.
What were your questions?
But the truth is, please, Shaibu should be recognized as deputy governor.
All right.
Yes.
So based on this, there's no rule of law versus political reality. It's the rule of law, end and simple.
Yes, now.
If the court has ruled, then like he said, who appointed him? He was not. It doesn't exist. And so I have some questions this morning, because remember that when this happened, we had asked that, is he going to refund the salaries that were paid to him in the 4 months or however number of months that he was deputy governor, now not recognized by law? Number two is that, is he getting any form of compensation post? You know how we talk about this governor and deputy governor allowances after their time in office? I hope Edo State money is not going to pay him, because if he was not, if he has not been recognized by the court, he's not recognized. If Governor Obaseki wants to pay him out of pocket, that is his prerogative. But in the face of the law, according to the law, in respect of the rule of law, he was not recognized. And then finally, I just want to make the point that it is important that we also understand, how did he get an invitation to this former deputy governor?
I can see a smirk on Dr. Abati's face.
You know, while the rule of law is important, but in this kind of situation, you know also that you can be in a position de facto. So you can say you were there in that position, whether by right or not. And then you can have the right, the entitlement to be there by law. Then you are de jure. So this is a de facto, de jure, deputy governors fighting each other. And this is the kind of mess that politicians create as a result of, prioritizing their ego far and above the interest of the people. This is what we are seeing in this particular case. However, the bigger question is this thing they call a Forum of Deputy Governors that is holding annual conferences. This is their 4th annual conference. Is it a creation of law, or is it just a talking shop? Of what value is former deputy governors coming together? Because I don't know of any substantial thing that either came out of this conference or previous conferences that they had. You have a former ministers annual conference, a former deputy governors annual conference. Now, people should, once you leave office, go and find work to do. Instead of creating an idle assembly of jobless people, looking for titles, former deputy governor, former minister.
And that day I was in the newsroom. Guess what? Everyone was carrying it live. All the TV stations. I mean, come on.
So who is funding it? Maybe in the future we will have former association of TV anchors. Association of former TV anchors.
Clarification of that fact and the jury. Who do they pay?
No, because you raised the relevant question.
I think that payment is an oversight.
Should they even be paid?
Exactly.
Should they even be paid? Once you finish the assignment, go and find jobs to do.
Very well said, Dr. Fati.
You become a rent collector. Collecting state resources for doing nothing. Former deputy governor. What is the meaning of that?
It is former deputy governor. Let's take this one story now in Edo State. We'll highlight this a shocking video showing a violent altercation between a driver and some Federal Road Safety Corps officers in the middle of the road. Well, the incident, which took place over the weekend, showed the driver aggressively hitting an officer who also fights back as onlookers attempted to break up the fight. Let's take a look.
Hey, imagine you want the steering. What they break it all over here. What they lamon driver here. What do me cabo goes side the driver headed to some pay order to Nakoboko, Oma, wipe with what to Kakani, Olo Farm, Gaton Shelley. You imagine if I was a teacher about 30 per go and in Yakufulo, or I break it over, Lord Lucky Mama, the steering. And now, Gato, Gato, Poma Shelley, Nina Gia, Niluto Lofe, Tony Joy, that don't know about Tony Joy, Go Shelley. And don't want no uniform, officer of the law. So I come out, Jan, no uniform. Just because of common change. Only for our Alaba and say, yeah, me share video and go count down.
That's the right question. Should the officers be fighting in uniform just because of change? But should that driver be flogging those officers? I mean, come on. Well, the Federal Road Safety Corps has reacted to this incident. They posted a statement on X stating that the Corps Marshal Shaibu Mohammed has expressed deep concern over this incident and has ordered an immediate investigation into what happened. But this has sparked conversations around the frustration with certain road officials and their practices, as well as allegations against, them extorting drivers on the road. A quick comment, and then we'll move to our other story really quickly.
We often talk about the overzealousness of some officials. I'm glad that the commander has said he's going to investigate. I think beyond investigating is that we have to see reports and we have to see consequences. We always hear about investigations, yet you go on the road and nothing happens. We see impunity, asking for money, stopping, cars that look healthy and leaving the ones that are half off the road. And so beyond these investigations, let us actually see a change in the code of conduct for these men in uniform. And beyond that, I also think that the man who flogged him should be brought to book as well. It is not acceptable. Absolutely. We must respect our men in uniform, but also the men in uniform should act in a manner that would earn the respect of the Nigerian people.
This video was quite shocking when I saw it, Aya. Well, we'll take another story now. Nigerian actress and philanthropist Sarah Martin was arrested in Lagos for cooking on a street median for the less privileged, has taken her charitable work global, sparking a renewed conversation about her controversial arrest back home. Just weeks after the incident, Martin shared a video showing her undertaking a similar project in Ottawa, Canada. The footage shows Martins preparing, packing, and serving meals to a long queue of grateful people. Let's take a look.
Like I'm texting me
Rufai is laughing. This video has drawn comparisons to the Lagos incident online with, some highlighting a seeming irony, saying that her act of generosity that resulted in public humiliation in her home country is now being celebrated and welcomed on the international stage, while others pointed out that the Canadian video, Martins appears to be operating from a proper kitchen, suggesting her methods were more appropriate than her choice to cook on a public street in Nigeria.
You see, in Nigeria, they can do rubbish. Yes. So why did she go and cook in the middle of the road in Canada?
Yes.
So please, all of this, I just think is part of the hype and all of that. And for those that give her money, because we've now gone to see empirical fact. It was dollars they gave her, and they said it was from a foundation that has something to do with the son of the president. That did not work. You know me, I'll go and do my empirical facts. In fact, they said it was from one woman from a particular agency on behalf of Noella. People gave her money to be able to spin it politically and support this rubbish. So the presidents are coming out to deny and saying, I have nothing to do with it. It didn't work.
All right.
So I support Lagos State government wholeheartedly. If Sarah Martins cannot cook on the road in Canada, that she cook in a proper kitchen, why did she do it in Nigeria? Just show that it's in Nigeria, people can do all sorts of rubbish and get away with it, and because of public sympathy and social media buzz.
All right, Dr. Abbasi.
Well, this is why it is important to have order in a society. When you have order, there will be discipline. And where there is no discipline, serious-minded societies apply the sanctions. Now, this is why you see a difference in terms of the behavior of leaders, not just Sarah Martins, even most Nigerians. When they are abroad, if they say queue up, they will queue up. Go to Heathrow, everybody is well behaved. Let them get to Murtala Mohammed Airport. The same people will change. They will begin to shout, they will begin to misbehave. Our leaders go to Dubai, they go to Doha, they see everywhere so well organized. When they come to their own country here, they give excuses. I think the only way we can move forward in this country is for people to respect order and discipline. Yes. The Lagos State Task Force said Sarah Martins was constituting a nuisance on the streets of Lagos because she will stay in the middle of the road, by the median, and she'll be cooking.
Yeah.
It will be disturbing the traffic, and then the cooking will be done publicly, and then the food will be distributed, and, maybe just to create content. But in Canada, she went to a proper kitchen. She did it in an orderly manner.
Right.
And she went and gave food out in an orderly manner.
Right.
You saw the people, they even queued up. So I think we must support the attempts by government, whether local or state or federal, to enforce the rule of law and ensure orderly behavior.
Well said, Dr. Abbasi.
It took the Buhari administration war against indiscipline.
That's what it was called.
Soldiers had to be brought out to be flogging people.
Correct.
That may have been excessive, but Nigerians should learn to respect the rule of law and orderly behavior.
Well, all right. Now, under milestones, we remember a tragic day in Nigeria's aviation history, October 29, 2006, when about 100 people, including the Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammadu Machido, spiritual leader of Nigeria's 70 million Muslims, were killed when an aviation development company airliner crashed. Moments after takeoff from Nigeria's capital, Abuja, the disaster shocked the nation and claimed prominent lives. Well, the ADC flight to northern city of Sokoto crashed into a field about 2 kilometers from the runway with 105 people on board. Only 5 survivors were rushed to a hospital in Abuja with 2 critically injured. Among the deceased were the Sultan's son, Senator Muhammadu Machido, and Abdurrahman Shehu Shagari, son of former President Shehu Shagari. Former Governor Atahiru Bafarawa of Sokoto State declared 6 days of mourning for Machido, who was also the most senior traditional ruler of northern Nigeria and had been instrumental in ending religious bloodshed in the central state of Plateau in 2004. Only the plane's tail, an engine, and part of a wing were still recognizable at the crash site, which was littered with smoldering fires. State radio said the aircraft crashed during a storm. It was the third major aircraft accident in Nigeria in 2006. ADC had also suffered a crash in November 1996 when one of its airplanes crashed into a lagoon outside Lagos, killing 143 people on board. The loss of Sultan Mashiru particularly devastated Nigeria's Muslim community, with tributes pouring in for a leader who dedicated his life to promoting peace and interfaith harmony during volatile times in Nigeria's history. The tragedy represents one of Nigeria's darkest aviation disasters, claiming not just ordinary citizens, but national figures whose contributions to peace and governance were invaluable. May their souls continue to rest in peace. May this incident never occur again in Nigeria. Ayo, you were going to say something.
Yes,
I heard you say
very tragic.
Yes.
But even in the tragic story, there were some miracle stories as well. 3 daughters of the former Kogi State Governor survived. Pardon? Yeah, the Ibrahim Idris, yes, survived this crash. A friend of mine, Dr. Esther Longe, survived this crash with only a scratch on her shoulders. So it just goes to show. So when you hear stories like this, I talk about milestone, it's very sad and unfortunately those that lost their lives, but also important to also hear the stories of those who, through this miraculously came out of this crash and today have been able to, live beyond the crash. She got a PhD, Rufai knows PhD.
I've interviewed her a couple of times.
Yes, and she shares her story and how this also gave her a moment to rethink her purpose in life and actually impact lives and humanity. So as we remember the dead today, we also celebrate the impact they had on those who were able to also survive and the lives that they have also touched in the process since then.
I'll give you guys the opportunity. I wouldn't take my entertainment story to share your views on our milestone story today. Dr. Abacha,
okay, just very quickly. That incident highlighted afresh the importance of aviation safety because it was also said to have been because of weather problems, pilot error. And between 2005 2006, we had 3 accidents, air accidents. Bellevue, Sosoliso, and then ADC.
Well, again, safety, their souls continue to rest in peace. I'm sorry we had to end What's Trending on such a sad note, or I hope, we'll get more cherry news tomorrow. I'd love to thank you all for your great analysis, as always, on What's Trending. Well, that's all I have for you guys on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.